Hi everyone, my name is Cardillo and this is my Cardillo at Polymer. Today we're gonna speak about something amazingly fun called neon elements, which give us the possibility to add some cool animation to our projects, such as sliding from the left to the right or merging an image to another image. And the results always give me the sensation to be back in my childhood. If you are using Polymer 0.5, you know that as core Ero pages or Ero Animations. And as you will see, a lot of changed, but it's still very simple to use. So let's watch it.
This is the result of our code after work. So this is what I want to do with you. As you can see, you have like a little template. You can go from a page to another. You can see the transition. You can open one. Click here. That's exactly what we're gonna do right now, and we're gonna start now. As you see, I'm not using a template that is included in the Polymer starter kit, but you can easily reproduce it or directly download the code on GitHub, and you will see it's pretty basic. The first thing we're gonna do here is to open the code and see the structure. So it's completely basic. It's exactly what we already seen in the Polymer starter kit. You can see that here it's generated by the PSK. What we want to do here is to integrate these little cards and do the transitions and stuff like that. So the first things we're gonna do is to put few elements and create the first elements, portfolio finished, and then portfolio in progress, for example. You can do whatever you want, but in this video we will do in this way. So here what I'm gonna do is to go in elements and integrate neon animated pages. So neon animation, neon animated pages, and we also integrate neon animation, neon animation.html, which include behaviors and animations, and you will see what it does in a few minutes when we'll go really deeply in the code. But the integration of these two thingy is quite the only things you have to do in every project where you want to use the animations engine of Polymer. Now that we integrated our elements, we can save and we can see that nothing's changed. We're gonna now integrate that here. So, and we can save, and again nothing's changed. So what we're gonna do is integrate the portfolio finished. In the portfolio finished, we can see that the code is pretty neat. We have a paper card which have some data binding from this variable called product list, which have an array with two objects inside, card 1, card 2, with a header and a launcher. So this is pretty simple and it will show up few cards. So let's write portfolio. We also need to integrate it in elements. Here I will integrate every element that I need. So in our case, finished, in progress, and showcase. These three elements are created for this video, and again, when you will create your own projects, you'll be able to do whatever elements you want. So for this video, it's just an example name and example code. So I'm saving elements, and I save index.html. And as we can see, I have few cards now. Now when I click on it, nothing happened, and if I go in progress, they just disappear, and I go back on finish, they reappear, nothing amazing. First point is to make that when I go on in progress, I see the other card. Now if we go in portfolio in progress, we can see that the code is exactly the same. So what we're gonna do now is to display it on the index.html inside the neon animated pages. So here, let's say in progress, let's change that, and when I go in progress I just see that. But it's quite disgusting, like it's not that beautiful because it do nothing, just disappear and reappear without any animation, and it's not very beautiful to see. So we need to modify that, and we also want that when I click on it, it does the exact same result that what I shown you in the beginning of the video. And for that you will see, even if the result is amazing, the code needed is like nothing. So the first things we're gonna do now is to check for some animation in order that when I click here or here, these cards do some animation that can make the transition a bit prettier for our eyes. So for that, I will go on portfolio finished and integrate behaviors. Now, this means that you're integrating some functions and public call from another elements. In our case, the elements are the one integrated in Neon Animation. Now, this one means that it will run an animation on this page, and this one means that it will run an animation that comes from this page to another page. This, for example, will integrate all the methods and everything we need in order to have the same result that when I click here, this image merge with the background and become the background itself. So these two behaviors are important to integrate it, and without them it will simply not work. Now what we're gonna do is to write properties, because the animation need to be in a variable, and this variable is called animation config. That is where we're gonna write and define our animation. In our case, the first animation we want to define are the one that's play when you enter the page and when you exit the page. So let's say entry, which define that is the entry animation, and we need to put an array with an object inside and say name. Let's put a fade in animation node this, which means that the animation will play on this entire page. Now for the exit, we'll say exit, same syntax. We'll put a fade out animation and same node this. Base seems to be pretty okay. Let's check if it changed something. So I go on in progress, finished. The result is quite good, but it's still not what I wanted. So what we're gonna add in the entry is a cool thingy called transform animation. So we'll put another object and we're gonna call it transform animation. Now the transform animation gives us the ability to use CSS rules to define the animation we want to be played in our code. So we'll say transform from, and we'll put translate X like that. So they will do a cool animation that comes from a left side and say node this. Let's try. As we can see, it worked well on finished, but obviously it doesn't work on in progress because we didn't define the same rules on in progress. So we'll just copy and paste this exact same code to in progress. And let's try. Now it's definitively better. It was very simple to do this effect, and it looked very cool. But now I want the cards appear one by one with like escalation, like with some delays and stuff like that. So I want to change a bit what we've done, and in order to do that, it's not very complicated. In order to do that, the first things we need to do here is to check the code I already wrote. The template is a DOM repeat, which repeat the variable product list over here. As we can see here, we have two cards. Can even put an different ID in order to be sure that they are different. And what we need is to access them when this template is loaded. So what I can put here is when the DOM is changed, which means that when everything is loaded inside the template, it calls this private function called repeat render. Now the repeat render is not wrote over here, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So I start by putting it here. It's better, and say repeat render function doesn't take any arguments, and we'll say this paper card is equal to polymer dot dom this root dot query selector all, and we'll select all the paper cards. So this will contain all the paper cards generated by the DOM repeat over here, and this is important to use the Polymer, this exact same syntax, because it doesn't give the same type as document query selector all. It's just not the same thingy. It is not, for example, if you use document.query selector all, it will give you as a node list, and this one give you it as an array list. For some reason, Neon Elements does not take the node list, it only take the array list. So we need to use this command to access it in a proper way that Neon Elements can understand. And now what we're gonna say is to push a cascaded animation. So how to do that is very simple. This animation config, so we access the variable over here. Entry, so we access this. push, and we just add an object inside this, and we're gonna define it. So the same as we started to define over here, we'll say name cascaded animation. We'll say transform animation, so the same, right? And as we did for in the beginning, is transform form, where we're gonna say translate y, and we do the 100 VH, and here the nodes with a S will say this paper card. So if you understand now, cascaded animation will say it's pre-created animation style. That means that it will play from the element 0 to the element 100, for example, with a bit of delay inside of the animation. And we say here that it's a transform animation, which means that we give a CSS rule. This is the CSS rule, and the nodes are the result of the query selector hole over here. And that's it. So let's see if now it's working well. It's unfinished. So progress, finished. Yes, this is perfect. As we can see, they come one by one from down the page, from the bottom to the page. I'm sorry for my English today, it's like very crappy, but I'm very sorry. But they come from the bottom of the page and they appear one by one. And for doing that in progress, it's very simple. We just take that and we copy the whole thingy, and the result will be exactly the same. We're going in progress, bam, finished. And when you have different cards, if we have like a lot of different cards, the result will be amazing. It's very, very beautiful to see. I'm sure you're happy in front of your screen, and maybe some of you have some ideas of what you will do with these cool animations, but let's go further and let's see how to do even more cool animation. So now, in order to make this button working, we're gonna watch the code. The code say that, and you have a non-click event listener, that called the private function open card. We're gonna write this this function. So we are in progress. We'll go in finished. So we'll put a virgule and say open card function event. So the argument here is the event, and you're gonna understand why. The first thing we have to be sure about is that the user is clicking on the button and not on the image, the title, or something like that. So we're gonna put a if event target class list contains paperfab, then it will run something. So if I click here, the event will play nothing, but here the function will continue the code. What we need to do now is to say, is to call the elements portfolio showcase, but we didn't seen it yet. So the first thing we need to do is to check the code of it. The code of portfolio showcase is already done, and we'll touch nothing inside, so we'll just watch and read what's inside. As we can see, it's displaying a paper material with an ID product card, and we have some data binding. So here we have a product launcher. If you remind yourself in portfolio finished, the variable product list have a very data called launcher. So that's what we are displaying here. Product name, we can put product author, for example, here, and blah blah blah, and also description. So it's nothing amazing, but what is more cool is in the JavaScript side, where here we have behaviors, so what we've seen, and in properties we have an observer. When the variable product is equal to something else than null, or when it changed, it called the function, the private function product changed, which is equal to this one, and change the background image with the header. And with what we can see here is also we have close card, which is closing the card and going back on finished. This is not the good way to do it. I did it very fast. This is completely not the good way to do it. In order to explain you quickly, an element should be able to run by itself. So for example here you should write that and say for example close card, and that's it. And on the index.html you should listen for this event and act in order to take this event and whatever need to be done when this event is received. But here for this example I'm not doing it, but I want to warn you, this example is not cool. Definitively not the best way to do it. Whatever, we can continue. We can find the animation config with entry animation and an exit animation. Here we have two exit animation. We have a fade out and a scroll down. So we can save it, and obviously here if I click on the button it will change absolutely nothing. What we need to do is, for example, in finished, when we open the card we need to say document dot query selector, and here we're giving all the data from the product list, so from this card, and we give it the ID to the variable product in showcase. Again, this is not the good way to do it, and you should fire an event that index.html should intercept and act with it. But in our case, we're not doing that, and we'll just act and continue this way. So when the variable is changed, we're gonna say document query selector neon animated pages, and we'll say showcase. Very simple. Now what should happen is that when I click here, it should show me the showcase with the name and the launcher image, and as we have seen, we have a cool animation when we enter the card, and when I close the card we have a cool animation, and we see that the cards still appear one by one in a delayed animation or also cascaded animation. What we want to do now is to have something better looking than when I click on this image, then the card take and merge with the background, as we've seen in the beginning. In order to do that, we're gonna use an animation called Ero Animation. Now the Ero Animation needs to be played when we exit the page of Portfolio Finished and when we enter Showcase. So on exit, we're gonna add a part where we'll say name, Ero Animation, ID, Ero. So the ID, if you have different Ero animation, you should change the ID, but for here we just put Ero. And from page this, because we are acting on this page. Now Ero Animation take another arguments called shared elements that explain to the page which element it should merge. But in our case, I can't just put shared element over here, because we need to show to the code which card it needs to merge to the background. So for that, what we're gonna say is that when we click on the card, it gives to the Ero Animation the elements it needs to merge. And for that, it's not very complicated. Before we change the page, we're just gonna say this shared elements, so we are creating the variables, is equal to Ero, so the ID Ero, event.target, which is contained, so the argument event and the targets this card. And that's it. Now the result will be exactly the same. It does absolutely nothing. Why? Because we have to say to showcase what we have to do with this information. And it's pretty easy to do. As we've done with Portfolio Finished, the only things we need to do here is to add it in entry. So to page this. So saying that the Ero Animation is staying on this page. And now here, we're not gonna do exactly like Unfinished, where we are putting the shared elements dynamically. Here we know on what we will act, because we are taking the image from the card where we clicked and we merge it with the background. So what we're going to do now is to declare shared elements. So we'll say shared elements value function. It's pretty huge syntax, but still. And say Ero this product card. And I shown you earlier that this all paper material have as an ID product card. So here, what will happen is that, just need to put a virgule over here, that now the code now know what you have to do. So if I click here, as we've seen, it merged everything exactly how you need to. Now from in progress, it doesn't do the same at all. And again, the only thing we have to do is to copy the whole code and paste it. So we can go further with some cool details. We can put some delays on the animation and stuff like that, but for that you have a cool and amazing documentation on Polymer. Now that you got the logic, you will understand the documentation. I know that without seeing the neon animation running and without seeing some example, it's quite difficult to understand the documentation. But I hope that this video will help you, and now you'll be able to understand it.
I hope you enjoyed this video as I did. I'm really sorry for the delay since the last video. I had a lot of things to do and a lot of projects to finish and accomplish. So, but the next video is already coming, and I already know the subject, so everything is fine. No worry. Also, we didn't get through everything in the neon elements, but the documentation is pretty huge, and now that you got the logic, it will be quite easier for you to understand the documentation and the examples given by the Polymer team on polymerproject.org. I hope you enjoyed it again, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me through Twitter, GitHub, or stuff like that. I will be totally available. For any of your questions, feel free to comment this video, to like it, to subscribe. It will be very, very kind, and see you next time.